Welcome to the Remotely Review. I'm your host, Remotely. We're going to be talking about Black AF, in other words, black as Black AF. It's a TV show on Netflix. It's executive produced by Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones. You guys know Kenya Barris. Kenya Barris, he's the creator of the TV show Blackish. It's over on ABC. Also the spinoffs Mixedish and Grownish. Okay. Kenya Barris is also responsible for the movies Girls Trip, also the TV show Top Model with Tyra Banks. Yeah. Also that little movie, the movie called Little with Marseille Martin and Issa Rae. Yep. Kenya Barris, he's responsible for those. So let's have a round of applause for Kenya Barris. Rashida Jones, if you guys are not familiar with Rashida Jones, it's Quincy Jones' daughter. For those of you who did not know, yes, Rashida Jones is Quincy Jones' biological daughter. It's Quincy Jones and Peggy Lipton. Those are her parents, okay? And Rashida Jones, she's known for her roles on Parks and Recreations, The Office. I became really familiar with her in that TV show she did with Angie Tribeca. Angie Tribeca was a smash. It was a hit. So funny. Like, hilarious. I mean, I laughed all the way through each and every episode. Yep. Angie Tribeca. So anyway, they're doing Black AF right now on Netflix, and I gotta tell you, it is a laugh fest. It is an eye-opener. I mean, it sheds light on so many different things that a lot of people like to sweep under the rug. Okay? A lot of issues that are somewhat, just kind of off limits when you're having conversation with different people, okay? I'm glad and I'm so happy that Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones decided to, you know, break the mold, go against the grain, be daredevils, and actually bring us this TV show. I think it was needed. During this time, you know, the racial climate in this country, you know, the things that people have suffered and endured over the past decades, centuries, whatever you want to call it, I think this show is highly necessary and highly appropriate for the times. Now, I saw a lot of different comments on social media. People were somewhat trashing the show, and I disagree. I disagree completely, totally. If you don't like the show, if you're not into the show, then you're somebody who probably lives in a small town. You're a hometown kind of person who's never ventured out and kind of explored different walks of life. You know, you've probably never had a real world experience, because they're speaking to situations that a lot of successful African Americans actually deal with. People who have actually lived on the other side and would say that the grass is greener. Okay? You've got to have experience, though. If you don't like the show, I have to attribute that to life experience or lack thereof. Because you have to experience something or go through something in order to understand what Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones are actually trying to tell you. Okay? And it's a lot. I can tell you it's a lot. And so you've got Rashida Jones and Kenya Barris. They're your two main players in the show. Okay? They're married. They've been married for quite some time. He's a successful filmmaker out in Hollywood, and she's an attorney. She's also a self-proclaimed feminist. We'll get into that later. But yeah, she's a self-proclaimed feminist. And they have 6 kids together. 6 kids, and they all live in the same house. One kid is off to college. One kid is trying to get into college. And, you know, the kid who's trying to get into college, she's trying to get into film school at NYU. And she's actually the person narrating the whole show. So you got his daughter. His daughter, is it Drea? I think it's Drea. Drea is the one who's narrating the entire show, and she does a great job. I think she's a great attribute to the show, and I like her acting. But you know, it's just a whole family dynamics thing that we love to see on TV. Okay, it's all happening under one roof in one household. It's all happening. Okay, and so they're very rich. They enjoy the finer things in life. Very much atypical to what a normal black family is accustomed to. Okay, but I think the point here is to simply understand that not all black people are living in sheds or in the ghetto or in the slums or in the gutter. It's not that, okay? Some of us actually are affluent in society, okay? Some of us are actually out there rubbing elbows with the upper echelons. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Like, you might not see it every day, but it's true. It's a reality. I tell people all the time, you go to Beverly Hills, you're going to see some black people. You don't see that on TV. They won't show you that on TV because they don't want you to know that. But you will see black people in these high places. You won't see very many. You won't see very many. One thing that Kenya Barris pointed out in the show was that he's a big fan of Jay-Z, right? And so, watching the show, I immediately thought about the story of OJ. Okay, the story of OJ by Jay-Z on that 444 album. If you haven't heard it, please check it out. The story of OJ on the 444 album. I think it's like the second track on the album. It should serve as the soundtrack to blackaf. It really should, because I think the main idea here is to tell you, hey, no matter how high you go, no matter how successful you get, no matter what kind of mountains you climb or whatever, you are still black. You're still black. You know, and is that a racist thing? Some would say yes. I say no. It's not a racist thing. It's just it's a thing of observation. It's a thing that society has conditioned people to acknowledge and kind of be aware of and pay attention to. It's what people see, you know? So it doesn't matter how many yachts you buy. It doesn't matter how many jets you fly. It doesn't matter how many trips you take, how many Warrior games you sit courtside at. It doesn't matter. Like, you're still black. Does that have to be an issue? No, it doesn't have to be an issue, but it is a thing. It's a thing, you know. And so I love the way Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones handled that, because there's a scene in that first episode where they're having dinner with some old friends of theirs, and it's a white couple, and I guess they haven't seen each other in a while, and so they're not very up to date or familiar with one another's current lifestyle. And the white couple, they touch on something about camping in San Francisco, and Kenya and Rashida, they seem interested, or just interested, but not extremely interested. And I think the white couple could tell. But when the white couple started to push back and say things like, well, the proper term for it is, or you don't really understand, or, you know, they started to kind of overdo it to relate to Rashida and Kenya. But the way that Kenya and Rashida pushed back on them, I mean, it was superb. I loved it. It was monumental. You want to know how they did it? They started flexing. They started flexing. I do it all the time. I do it all the time. Like, I don't care what's going on. At the end of the day, if you think that I am inferior to you and you are superior to me, you got another thing coming. I'm going to show you you're not superior to me. I'm going to pay for this dinner, okay? I'm going to pay to have your car picked up from valet, all right? I'm going to invite you out to another dinner. If you invite me somewhere, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to spend all of the money. Like, I'm going to cover everything. I'm going to flex on you to show you I can do that too, and I can do it bigger than you. Sorry. That's how you beat them at their own game. You didn't buy me anything. Nope, you didn't pay for anything for me. Nope, I bought that dinner. I paid for that. I covered that. I did that. Okay? Flex on them. Flex on your haters. They were hating. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. They were hating. And Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones put them in their place. Flex on them. I remember I used to work at Abercrombie and Fitch, and you know, I'm black, and I was surrounded by white people, of course, and I drove a vehicle that was highly in demand at that time. I won't say what kind of vehicle, but it was highly in demand at that time, and I just got a lot of heat from a couple of these white guys that I worked with, guys who typically, you know, just would be nice and cordial and polite and stuff like that, but when I pulled up and I parked that car in that front door, oh my God, like the attitudes changed. Like, I got all of this aggression and hostility from these guys, and it was like, what is going on? Like, can a black man drive a nice car or what? And these are guys who I actually like. I was friends with these guys, but The moment they realized that I was doing it bigger and better, the gloves came off. Yep. The gloves came off, and there was no more, oh, you're cool, like, let's go, hang out, like, let's go to Sonic, are you gonna come to the tennis court tonight? It was no more of that. It was like, why are you here? Like, no, nobody told you to come in today, you're not on the schedule. I have a right to be here, the manager called me in, forget you, okay? But yeah, so like, all of that stuff happens, like, when you're, and so, when you flex on them, they start to feel inferior. Like, and that's not limited to white people or, Latino people or Middle Eastern people. That's not limited to a particular race. I'm just saying, in general, on your haters, you gotta flex on them. You gotta flex on them. And King Barris, they showed out. Watch that first episode and check out that scene where they're at that dinner table. I mean, they touched on Cardi B, they touched on Jay-Z. The daughter, Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones's daughter, they called and they FaceTimed her. And she spoke to the white couple, and the white couple looked at the phone and realized that the daughter had purple hair. The daughter had dyed her hair purple. And they made their best attempt to compliment the daughter, but they started using these black stereotypical phrases to compliment her, okay? And to some people that can be offensive, to some people that can be disrespectful. I don't find it disrespectful, I'll be honest with you. I don't find it disrespectful. I simply see it as somebody trying to relate. They're not familiar with the culture or not completely in touch with what's going on, but they're doing their best to relate. Can you be mad at somebody for that? No. You can't be mad. I don't care what color their skin is. I don't care what their culture is. If they're trying their best to relate to you, whether you find it, to be somewhat too black or whatever, like, that's not the case. This is how they know to relate to you, okay? And so give them A for effort, for at least trying. And so, but anyway, that dinner table scene, you got to check it out. Black AF explores the judgment that black people face on a regular basis from white people, particularly in the workforce. You know what I mean? If you're out there in one of those careers or work in a field that is predominantly white, or they would say black people are kind of, blocked out of typically. If you're black and you're in one of those fields, then this TV show speaks to you, okay? There's this thing in the TV show that Kenya Barris refers to. Is called white gaze. No, not white gaze as in white gay people. No, white gaze, like as staring at somebody, looking at somebody. White gaze. And it basically encompasses the way that white people view and judge black people. Okay. If you've been there, then you know what it means. You know what he's talking about. Some people take offense to it, some people don't. There's a positive and a negative way to look at it. You choose one. I say be open-minded and understandable that not everyone knows your life. Not everyone is familiar and aware of what black people do and how we live and stuff like that. And so sometimes curiosity takes over people, and they can only express that the way that they've been taught. So I think if somebody's making the effort to spend time with you, to actually get to know you and get comfortable around you, I think you need to give them credit, even if they do slip up and say something racist or derogatory. Perhaps they didn't mean it. Perhaps they did not mean it. It's just the way that it came out. And then it's your job to take an Oprah Winfrey approach and say, you know what, I'm not going to get mad at you, but I'm going to educate you and teach you and show you why next time around you're not going to use that word around me, or you're not going to say it this way, you'll say it this way. And so, like I said, this is not limited to just white people. I mean, there's a scene in the show where Kenya Barris touches on the Armenian community out in California. I think he touched on it so well. I worked in Glendale for, 4 years? Yeah, I worked in Glendale. And Glendale, if you've been to Glendale, you know that Glendale is predominantly, when I say predominantly, I mean probably 90% Armenian. Okay? Everybody's had their own experience. I have to say mine was a good one. I worked with some great Armenian people. I mean, my coworker, I mean, he introduced me to his family. His family would come to the store and visit me, and we'd have conversations. His girlfriend would come see me and stuff like that. Like, you know, I was friends with them. You know, his family actually would invite me over to the house for dinner and you know, stuff like that. You know, bring food from the house and give it to me at the job. You know, oh, you know, my mom cooked these for you. Oh, well, it's a dessert. You know, taught me some of the Armenian language. I know words like galises. And it's like, you know, saying like, I'm coming, I'm on my way. You know, if your mom yells at you and she says something like, well, Sarkis, where are you? Come on. And then you yell back, Ma, Galises. That's your way of saying, Mom, I'm on my way. You got other words like, well, you can't say this one, but there's a word called Bossitega. Bossitega. You cannot say that word. They will jack you up. You might die. Bossitega. And then words just like high stancy. Okay, and high stancy, that's like saying that, you know, a goody two shoes. Bougie in the Armenian language, you know, that person's like they're high stancy. You know, high stancy. I like high stancy. I like that word. But anyway, like I said, I had some great encounters with the Armenians over in Glendale, but I've heard some horror stories, okay, and I think that can be attributed to what Kenya Barris was trying to portray in Black AF. They had to meet this guy for some Molly. They were out trying to get some Molly, and they had to go meet the Armenian drug dealer, and they talked about what kind of clothing they wear. I think the Armenian style, the way that they describe it, that stereotypical stuff, I mean, you see it, but you don't see it very often. I mean, I think it's something that they just simply associate with the culture, just like they associate a lot of stuff with the black culture. You know, they think we all wear gold chains and all of this different stuff, you know what I mean? Like, which is not the case. We know this. They think we all wear baggy, saggy pants and Air Force Ones and stuff like that. That's not the case. I don't own a pair of Air Force Ones. I've never owned a pair of Air Force Ones. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just one of those things that they associate with the culture, but it's really not, you know, it's not the case with a lot of the people who are actually a part of the culture. But anyway, they're out there trying to get these drugs from this guy, and they pull up, and Kenya Barris is frightened because he's the one that has to get out and actually make the transaction. And during that time, he's actually detailing what his thoughts are about the Armenian culture out there in California. And he even touched on that restaurant Togo's. If you guys have never heard of Togo's, it's an Armenian restaurant, and Kenya Barris says that they ripped off Starbucks with Togo's. I don't know that far myself on that, but it does remind you of Starbucks, Togo's. It reminds you of Starbucks. So it is what it is. You know, the Armenian culture, I think they're some of the most beautiful people in the world. I do think that they are very family-oriented and just very like, tight-knit kind of thing. They are all about their people, which is a good thing if you think about it. I think as black people, we got to be more like that as well. You know, like support your own people. You know,